The first module is regarding the setup. If you believe that you are already efficient in this sector of the forehand, feel free to skip to the next video. If not, let's begin. So from our ready position, we're going to establish our turn, okay? We want to make sure that our racket is in an ideal position so that we have minimal movement for when we turn with our body, so we're not thinking too hard on the court. This is a common issue. People are thinking about where to set the racket, so let's get it right from the jump and set ourselves up for success. The racket should be just below eye level. The butt of the racket should be in line with our belly button. We should be able to shoot a basketball in this space. Notice how my elbows are up and away from my body, okay? Some people start in the forehand grip. Some people start in the continental grip. I start in continental because it's closer to my backhand grip, so I like that. If you're gonna change the grip, as you unit turn, you're gonna use the non-hitting hand and change to whatever grip you use. I'm not here to tell you which grip is the best. They each have the pros and cons, so do your own research on that. So, phase one of the turn is getting our hips and our chest sideways, parallel with the baseline. What needs to happen is we either need to be on the run, up on our toes, and just stepping and turning, or if we're standing in one spot, we just pivot, okay? Either way, to get sideways, you gotta get up on your toes. The body position that you're gonna end up in, so just so you understand, okay, put your hands on your hips, get up on your toes, boom. And you twist everything as a unit, okay? So once you get this, you're pretty much good. Make sure to keep the non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket, okay? Notice how I'm not even moving the racket at all. If I turn and then I keep my hands in the same position, all that happened was a grip change. The less movement, the better. We're gonna reduce the range of motion, and eventually in the later modules, you're gonna learn how to increase racket head speed as well. Now, phase two of the setup is turning our shoulders past our hips. On an imaginary clock, if that's 12, we're gonna take the racket back to about 5:30 or 5:45. Our upper body keeps twisting back simultaneously once it reaches here. The legs stay in the same spot, okay? And once we get this position, a checkpoint is if your front shoulder is relatively close to underneath your chin. It doesn't have to be right under it, just in and around this area is good. The thing you have to focus on is keeping this elbow up and away from your body and making sure not to tuck it in back here. So we want to hold our ready position. Notice how I'm going back without moving the racket. Basically the same ready position. I did lift my elbow a little bit higher though. So from here, notice how in the setup I also keep the racket in front of the hand. Inverting the racket is very important, especially in advanced level tennis. The racket is also slightly hooded so that my strings can fall to the floor, okay? We don't want to set the racket head behind the hand, okay? That's going to steal away a lot of our power. So from here, this is a good setup. Now what should you do with the legs? You should shift your body weight onto the outside leg and delay the step by getting up on this toe, okay? We will cover the footwork later, but if you're gonna step out, it would be sit, lift. As for the setup, you're set. You will also notice how some players have the non-hitting hand not on the throat. It's okay, but just know if you do this, you do need to have the hand following closely, because if you don't, you're gonna end up being off balance, you're gonna lose racket head speed, okay? You don't wanna open the fridge. You wanna keep the shoulders together as a unit and load as much energy as possible, so you gotta take them back together. Whether it's keeping the hand on the racket head, that's gonna help you do that, or just following very closely. I recommend holding the racket throat because it will force you to build this habit. When you take the racket back to 545, you should know that it's also very important to keep the racket on the outside of the body. We don't want to wrap it behind ourselves, and we don't want to lay the strings open. Okay, 2 mistakes. One would be setting up like this, having the strings open up like a frying pan, right? Seasoning the racket. And another one would be, right, tucking this elbow in and having the racket essentially play hide and seek behind us. We want to keep it out here so that later in the swing we can get a lot of racket head speed and go out and away and really reduce the range of motion.